Are you lost? Or are you looking for something? Walking around here, it's dangerous. This is not recommended for everybody. Kiddos can come along, but they're gonna only have more questions than answers. But that's part of this journey. Enter if you dare. My name is Dakota Frandsen, and this is Specialist of the Strange Radio Show, where we go into various topics of the unknown and bring them to light. And maybe, just maybe, we'll discover something new along the way. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. You're not going to want to miss this.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Dakota Frandsen. I know this episode is coming out a little bit later than usual, but I promise there's a good reason. As many of you know, tomorrow is the premiere of The Hunt for Olivia, a Halloween special, as it is Halloween. And so many of us are going to be limited on what the hell we're going to get to do tomorrow due to COVID restrictions. Yay! So I thought, why don't I provide a little entertainment? Why don't I provide a little something that'll help me try to figure out a few things that I've been trying to solve with this case since the very beginning, but also provide you, my followers, my fans, my friends, some new content and some new interesting perspectives on the entire situation. So, last week I initially wanted to talk about children appearing before birth. So we're going to work that into today's episode, as well as talk a little bit more about the Halloween special. But first, I do want to give a couple of shout outs right now. For those of you who don't know, this week happens to be one of the more busiest weeks out of the year for me, for obvious reasons. But there's also the fact that somehow I managed to land with 5 back-to-back birthdays this week alone, leading even on Halloween itself. Well, technically it's only 4, but one of them is for twins. So, anyway, I do want to give a quick shout out, a quick happy birthday. I hope y'all had a good year. Sounds fucked up to say when it's 2020, but y'all know what I mean. I hope y'all are doing good. I hope y'all are healthy. I love y'all. I hope to see you soon if I don't get to see you enough already. And I also received a little bit of surprising, well, technically not so surprising under the circumstances, but a little bit of surprising news. I found out that I am actually going to be an uncle again. One of my sisters is expecting her first child. I'm honestly worried about her. Just because the situation is not ideal. But, these were her choices to make. And she's going to need a lot of support that she can get, because I don't think it's really set in yet just how bad this situation is going to get. Financially, everybody expects that, but there's also a series of medical concerns on top of what my grandma likes to call the curse of giant babies. Some of the mothers in the audience may be able to sympathize a little easier, but just to give you an example, and it's also why I've been trying to be careful about not letting Olivia into the world too quickly. When I was born, I was 12 pounds 4 ounces. When this particular sister was born, she was born a month early. She was like 10 pounds 12 ounces. So, anyway, I just wanted to give her a shout out. She's been a pain in my ass all her life, but I still love her. Still going to be there for her as much as I can. As she's going to need the help. She's going to need the help. And plus I figured an announcement of a pregnancy would be fitting for today's episode. After the commercial break, we're going to go into the topic about children appearing before birth. Then as we go to close the show, we're going to talk a little bit more about the Halloween special. The link to attend, if you wish to watch, is in the description below. Do please check that out. I have arranged it so that this episode would act as the announcement in order to help get the link spread out even further. So I don't have to totally rely on the people I'm about to spam with the invite messages. As I'm currently recording my bad. I forgot to send down my notifications. My bad. Anyway, the people I'm about to spam with invites, so I don't have to send the link out to you all. So that way you can catch it when you can. If you're able to attend the premiere, I will be in attendance. I can ask any questions you may have during the premiere. All I ask is that you do be respectful. This topic is personal to me. It might be a bit of a sensitive subject for some viewers, so viewer discretion is advised. How about I get to commercial break so we can finally get down into the show, huh? Alright. So, this is a bit of a complex topic. Now, let's dig into some of the arguments presented by skeptics in these cases. Now, some of them I'm not discounting. No. They may actually be right. It's also why until better systems are in place to evaluate paranormal reports, every incident reported should be taken on a case-by-case scenario. Let's go with example A. An expecting mother has frequent dreams of a child. Now, these dreams are typical, average, everyday, white picket fence American family sort of images. But every time they manifest, certain details are exactly the same. Say in this instance, their child is a boy, husband comes home from work, they have a family dinner, Kid talks about homework and things like that. And, typical average family situations. Aside from the funky dreams, example A exhibits no strangeness factors, except the dreams seemingly being just a little too vivid. Now, what sorts of arguments would a skeptic bring up? It's like, well, let's say, for example, there are no outside factors to consider. The expecting mother is, in fact, a young mother expecting their first child, happily married, no history of abuse, no mental illness, none of that. Now, a skeptic might argue that the reason why the child always turns up to be a boy is because that's what the mother hopes for. And being able to morph the child's face to where it shows both characteristics of both the mother and the father. Well, anybody with a creative enough mind can easily do that without even thinking about it. I mean, hell, who has at some point imagined what their kids may look like with a celebrity crush, for example? Alright. That makes sense. And that could very well be the case. Now let's switch it up a little bit. Let's go to example B. An expecting mother sees phantom images of small children, of a child in the room. The child doesn't necessarily act like he notices the parent at first. But then all of a sudden, the child says, "Hey, Mommy." Let's dig into this. Now, these examples are taken from common themes that have been presented to me over the years. Alright. What would be going on with this woman? Well, a skeptic may argue that it is obvious the mother is excited about the child, and they may actually suffer some abnormal brain activity that is causing them to essentially project what they think the child would be like into the physical environment. Similar to active hallucinations or sleepwalking. That may be the case. What would trigger these things? Well, sleepwalking episodes are usually triggered by some form of stress. These hallucinations, they may be caused by current or former drug use. They may be the results of head injuries they received. Things of that nature. You dig into the mother's background, you find out that the father of the child was in fact abusive. The only reason he stopped smacking around the woman was when he figured out that she was carrying his child. And he wanted the child to live, but didn't necessarily care about what happened to her. But he knew that the child needed to use her in order to develop fully. I have run into this situation as well. It's going to Exhibit C. Possibly the strangest of them all. And this is modeled after the situation that happened with me and the incident, that started the whole Halloween special in the first place. The mother is in an abusive relationship. She receives visitations and dreams of a child that tries to encourage her to hold it out, be strong. Things like that. Okay? The woman is not pregnant when these visitations occur. And up until recent developments, that's been the one thing that separated the Olivia. That's one of the factors that has separated the Olivia case from other cases involving prophesized children. I like that. Prophesized children. There's clearly a situation of abuse. Used in the past, in an abusive relationship. She may be plotting to get away from this subject if she is not pregnant already with this child and get the child away. Think of it like those of you who watch The Boys, spoiler alert for those of you not far enough along yet, please don't spoil anything because I'm in the middle of season 2. Homelander's child not wanting anything to do with his father because the child knew what happened. So, what might a skeptic say to that? Mental illness, obviously. But, what if we can't rule out, use mental illness of any form as a one-size-fits-all solution to these strange events? What if the factors which trigger episodes of mental illness, what if those increase the odds? What if, in fact, something within our own brain chemistry Seriously? Sorry, TikTok notification. But what if there was something else? Mental illness was simply a byproduct because our minds have not been able to fully develop and evolve to the point they can understand these things. We're almost there. We're almost there. But what is it? How would this even be possible? Let's start on that. When I first started these investigations, the most common link between all prophesized children cases is the fact that the mother was already pregnant with the child. That was one of the most common factors that came into play. Not one that was present in my case, but nevertheless. one of the most common factors is that the child was already in utero. Let's pick this apart. By the time the child is able... No, wait, back up. No, that's... By the time the child is able to appear, how the heck do they know to appear? What would it take? Well, in a human fetus, the brain is start to take shape and develop and be functioning right around weeks 5 or 6. All factors point to the brain being influential factor on spirits, on psychic ability. One interesting thing that they have that studies have found in episodes of psychic phenomenon is that people who are genuinely experiencing some sort of psychic episode, their mind is suffering a form of epileptic seizure. Minor, but it's there. The frontal lobe, interestingly enough, seems to have a total disconnect in most cases. So what does that mean, though? Being that the frontal lobe doesn't exactly fully develop until a person's teens or 20s, could that simply be the answer of why kids seem to be more sensitive to the paranormal? Why kids seem to be naturally psychic until they get older? It's because the frontal lobe somehow turns it off? Or better yet, that's not even the appropriate way to put it. The mind is full of several electrical signals, right? So, if you plug a lot of things into a power outlet, not a lot of that power has to spread out through everything that's plugged in. You're going to get weakened power. Or even if you're not an electrician, it'd be like connecting multiple hoses to a faucet. You're not going to get amazing water pressure if you put too many hoses in one spot. Or if you run too many faucets off at once. That could very well be the situation. The frontal lobe is diverting the necessary resources for a majority of people to be able to have some sort of psychic ability. When we're kids, that hasn't quite set in yet. But here's another thing, though, that we need to consider. Head trauma. There are cases where someone takes a nasty enough blow to the head, they can gain new talents, abilities. They can learn, all of a sudden speak languages and speak in accents of places they have never been in, never had any exposure to. The mind is a mysterious thing. And it seems like you can literally beat new functions into it. But it also presents the risk of beating necessary functions out of it. Which is why mental illness may be taking place. Because more and more people have those wirings in place. But their mind is not evolved enough to process that power. Image scans of someone who's dealing with PTSD shows that the mind is lit up like a motherfucking Christmas tree a good majority of the time. I know this is kind of diverting from the children, but it's a strong factor, so work with me here. What would have it taken for humans to not have to work, to be able to process psychic abilities without the negative side effects? Burnout, mental illness, psychosis even. What would it take? And how does it influence these kids? Let's get into that more on our next commercial break, after this commercial break. So, before the commercial break, we were getting into why prophecies of children seem to be possible. And while it may seem like I was kind of dodging off into a different subject, there's a train of thought here. Before the commercial break, I was discussing the possibility that human evolution may have been inhibited. The evolution which would allow for psychic powers. Now, where do I get this? Think about the witch trials. Think about some of the symptoms. Now, not one accused of being involved in witchcraft or demonically possessed. A lot of those symptoms coincide with severe cases of mental illness. It is significant enough that the Vatican actually had to rewrite exorcism procedure in order to try to provide the subjects the help they needed. In which one cannot perform an exorcism unless a mental health professional has been called in and has evaluated the situation. So think back to the witch trials. Epileptic seizures, talking in tongues, sudden gains of knowledge in cases after a severe blow to the head. Those are some of the few scenarios around the more extreme and perhaps strange cases, for lack of a better word. What if some of the earliest people who started to exhibit these signs were essentially weeded out from the population? What if the potential for one to achieve God-like psychic abilities may have been inhibited due to the fact that so many of the earliest individuals to possess a strong enough concentration of these circumstances, of these abilities, were eliminated? And in the time that between then and now, the information of which could have been gathered from back then in order to help teach people that their mental inhibitions may in fact be the byproduct of superpowers. What are the chances of that, though? Seem kind of slim, but when you really think about it, who's to say that's not the case? And who is to say that the reason why prophetic children are possible is because those abilities are looking to make a comeback? Think about it. Mental health is on the rise. It could be mental health issues are on the rise due to COVID-19. Domestic violence is on the rise. Simple blows to the head could be enough to trigger psychic phenomenon. Now, if my earlier theories about higher dimensional travel being similar to trying to maneuver in a vast, alive ocean, it would be easier for spirits to utilize anchors in order to manifest. That is why certain spots where one manifests are often, usually, there's usually something at the residence, if not the residence itself, of emotional significance. One's parents, even under the worst case scenario, one's own DNA could very well be a factor in this. And that is what allows for these children to be able to come through time in order to visit their parents, no matter the manifestations. Whether it is a spirit, fairies even, or maybe, just maybe, with the guiding hand of an angel. I'll be honest, in all the reports of prophecy children I've come across, I haven't collected any in which indicate that an angel was directly involved. Could it be that the subjects just did not see it, or could not see it? Maybe. Psychic abilities have been in my family for almost 400 years, so it could very well be, without sounding like I'm trying to stroke my ego or sound like some sort of cult leader, that the very lines of evolution that I was just hinting at exist within me, and Olivia is the next phase. Because you see, I do have a grandmother on my father's side who was said to speak to the angels, and a couple of times when I spoke to her, she knew answers to things that I would consider me and God questions. Situations I and only higher powers would know. And that has been a system to help me evaluate potential psychic subjects. So, and as far as the head blow, well, my mother once threw me into the ceiling as a baby when she was accidentally threw me into the ceiling as a baby. You know, you're playing with the baby, you're tossing him up and down in the air. Apparently I got sick on her, she threw up. I threw up on her. She threw me a little too high, hit my head on the ceiling. Well, it obviously was not a serious enough blow to cause any major damage. Head trauma has been linked to psychic subjects all over the place. Head trauma and epilepsy. Even going as far as subjects who were participants in Project Stargate. Which also brings another point to mind. Some of you may be familiar with the concept of a God helmet, a series of wires connected to either a headband or a helmet meant to stimulate the mind and trigger these epileptic seizures in order to simulate the conditions within the mind that have been linked to near-death experiences and psychic abilities. When you go to Project Stargate, there are rumors that subjects who underwent extensive testing, there were rumors that they didn't develop just psychic visions or astral projection. They were able to manipulate the environment around them. They started to possess telekinetic abilities. Even stranger, some subjects even started to develop the ability to seemingly teleport at will and manifest random objects out of thin air. What does this have to do with the children? Maybe prophecy children are merely a byproduct of psychic evolution. Think about everything I said in this episode. I know I kind of rushed through it because I want to get to the Halloween special. I am having some technical difficulties on my end that I hope I finally sorted out. In order to try to get it uploaded on time, do feel subscribe to me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat, TikTok, to try to get more updates as they come. The Halloween special premieres on YouTube tomorrow at 5 p.m. Mountain Time. If you go into the description below, you will be able to find a link to watch the show. If you can't make it on time, the video will still be up on my YouTube channel. You can watch it at any time. My name is Dakota Frandsen. Feel free to reach out to me anytime. Happy Halloween, everyone. Stay safe out there if you're able to go trick-or-treating. If not, well, why not try to catch some of the ghost hunting shows that are available that always do try to do specials around this time of year. Spend time with family. Spend time with your loved ones. 2020 has been one hell of a year, my friends. It has not been a year to ignore the ones you love. And I just want to say this. I love you all. I'll be sure to see you next time. Stay weird. Stay safe.